have enough tenacity to speak up. In no uncertain terms, ladies and gentlemen, he is testing our vocal cords. Because many of us, we have been silenced by an enemy that presumes we will not speak in the face of wickedness, perversion, or unrighteousness. And sadly, it seems that many in our generation, they have contracted what I call spiritual laryngitis. They have no voice when it comes to declaring the things of God. They have no voice when it comes to declaring holiness and godliness. Some of us have been silent for too long, which gives the consent that we accept what the enemy is doing in our churches. We accept what the enemy is doing in our youth groups, in our families, in our communities, and our society as a whole. But it's time for somebody to do what the prophet said to do in Isaiah chapter 58, verse 1. He said, cry aloud, spare not, lift up thy voice like a trumpet, and show my people their transgression and the house of Jacob their sins. I can't speak for you this morning, but I refuse to whisper about the things of God when this world is not shy in sharing their diabolical agendas. I refuse to use my inside voice when I personally know young people who are struggling and are under attack by satanic spirits. There is no way we can be quiet when in our world, can I just be plain this morning? When in the world we live in, you have abortion is a choice instead of it being a crime. I knew to get quiet through there. I can't be quiet in our society when same-sex marriage is a lifestyle instead of a lie. I cannot be quiet when in our society Jesus is hated instead of being celebrated. It's time for the church of the living God to clear its throat and to sound the alarm and tell the whole world you better get right before you get left because God is coming back soon. Surprisingly, I give honor to you as well, Brother Roberts. Forgive me for forgetting about you. It's been a pleasure to meet you as well. Surprisingly, many apostolic churches, you'll be surprised. I travel this nation. I travel all over, and you'll be surprised how many apostolic churches, they are now changing the way they have church. They are trying to mimic other religious groups. So now many apostolic churches now, they only pray silently. Many of them have been intentional about toning down their praise and minimizing their worship. They spend more time in the coffee shop than they do in worship. Not too many amens this morning. They are ashamed. They are apologetic for the way that apostolics have always had church. I don't know about you. I know it's 21st century and I'm a young man, but I don't know about you. But I'm not afraid or ashamed to say that I'm still apostolic. I still believe the way my ancestors believe. I still believe. I don't do this just because my mama did it or my daddy made me do it. But I'm a grown man now with my own family, and I still choose to live this way. I'm still that crazy apostolic who still believes when you come to church, you ought to still clap your hands. You ought to still run the house. You ought to still leap for joy. We still believe in speaking in tongues. We still believe in rolling on the floor. We still believe in getting crazy. We still believe in getting loud for Jesus. Here's my question. Why is it that nobody else apologizes for what they believe in except the Christian? An atheist is proud of his denouncement of Jesus. You have gay activists. They are not bashful in letting you know what they stand for. They will run through the streets with no clothes on, waving a rainbow flag, and they don't care what you think about them. There is not one Muslim in the world who will deny what Allah and Muhammad means to them. There is not one Buddhist in the world who will not ascribe to the proverbs of Confucius. But the problem is that you can find Christians walking around with their head down, second guessing what they believe in. There has to be a spirit of revolution that arises out of this generation and says, I am not ashamed of the gospel of Christ, for it is the power of God unto salvation. Y'all better hear me now. I refuse to turn down my gospel music when the world can turn their worldly music up. Y'all not hear me preaching here today. I said I refuse to play my gospel music silently when the world can let their windows down and blast all their vulgar music. I'm going to turn my Jesus music up. If my classmates and co-workers can stand around and talk about how good promiscuity makes them feel, how good marijuana makes them feel, how good alcohol makes them feel, then I'm not going to be ashamed to tell them how good the Holy Ghost makes me feel. I'm not going to, I wish I could preach it like I feel it today. I said I'm not going to be ashamed to tell the world how glad of a time I had at Camp Judah. I'm not going to be ashamed to tell the world you ought to take a drink of this new wine. You ought to experience the Holy Ghost. There is nothing sweeter than Jesus. Somebody shout, I'm not ashamed. Let me inject this before I get to my text. If you think that church is supposed to be soft, you think that church is supposed to be calm, then somebody lied to you. Somebody told you wrong. They must not have been talking about the apostolic church, because an apostolic church is not supposed to be quiet and hushed, but an apostolic church service, it should be loud. Y'all better hear me now. It ought to be piercing. You ought to feel something. Hold on. Somebody saying, Brother Wideman, that sounds good. That sounds good.